Hey guys, Tori here from Overlook Horizon. Happy Saturday to you. We're here live and ready to go for Transporter-1 for SpaceX this morning. This is kind of an exciting launch. I'm super excited. We're going to jump in. We'll talk about all the different things that are going to be happening this morning for this launch. It's going to be a little bit of a long one, but that's okay. I think it's going to be exciting along the way. So right now, it's a little after 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time this Saturday morning, January 23rd, 2021. In case you're watching the replay, I'll put timestamps in the description below on YouTube in case you want to skip ahead to any of the parts of the flights. But if you're here live, thanks for joining us here today and hanging out to see this pretty exciting launch. This is unusual. I know SpaceX is launching a lot of rockets these days, and sometimes maybe you tune in and you're like, I've seen this. Rocket goes up, booster comes down. It's the same thing every time. Not today. Today's different. Today's going to be a little bit different, so I think it's an exciting one. So today, Transporter-1 is launching 143 satellites into polar orbit. 143. This is a rideshare mission going into sun-synchronous polar orbit with 143 satellites. 143. It's a lot. I mean, most of them are pretty small. 10 of which are Starlink satellites. First time going into polar orbit for Starlink satellites. That's pretty exciting. And notice I mentioned polar orbit. This is launching from Cape Canaveral on the East Coast. So we've got a polar orbit happening here. I've got my Kerbal up here. I was thinking we might show some of that later. I just noticed that the Kerbal was up down here. But what I wanted to show was this page here, and we'll jump in and let's talk about that polar orbit, because that's kind of an exciting thing for this particular launch, is the polar orbiting aspect. The only other time we've seen this from SpaceX was on SOWCOM 1B, which was back in, like, what was that, August maybe? And that was the first time in 60 years that we've launched a polar orbiting satellite from Cape Canaveral, because of really this little section of land down here. We don't generally like to launch over Cuba down here, but today we are, and you're gonna see this little bit of a dogleg maneuver here. So it's not just kind of your straight typical. Let's see, which way can we? This way? This way. Well, let's do it. Oh no! Oh no! Now I did it. Well, somehow. There we go. Well, we're kind of tilted in a little. Yeah. All right. Something like this. I don't know how to fix the tilt, but anyway, so there you go. You can kind of see the dogleg maneuver there. That's kind of hooking around the bottom of Florida here, down by Miami. It's obviously got to go out over the ocean and cut back in because it's a 97-degree inclination today. So not only is it going south for polar orbit, but it's 97 degrees, meaning it's going further than south. It's got to go actually like south-southwest. So it's gonna head out. It's going kind of east for a minute, quickly goes southeast, then it's going pretty much directly south. Then as we get a little bit further south, then it's going to make another turn and head to the southwest. And our drone ship is positioned way out here for a booster landing, way down here, pretty much at just outside the Bermuda Triangle, right? Isn't the Bermuda Triangle goes right through here somewhere, the bottom edge of it. I think that's how that works. But yeah, so you've got a drone ship landing out here. We've got fairings that are gonna land out here as well. It doesn't sound like they're gonna try to catch the fairings, but we'll hear what they have to say when they go live during the broadcast. But I'm not expecting an actual fairing catch, but maybe fairing water recovery today. So we'll see what they say. But anyways, overall, so you see they're doing this southwestern trajectory here after launching from Florida, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. It makes me wonder, like, why not launch this one from Vandenberg? Because you got plenty of ocean here to launch from Vandenberg. But obviously we're launching from Cape Canaveral today, and it's gonna head around. Now we've got something like 12 separate satellite deployments here today, like 12 groups of deployments. There's 143 satellites, but like 12 groups of deployments, and you'll see those all listed on our list of events that's over here on the left side of the screen here. And I have them all grouped together by those 12 different deployments. So there's a whole, I have to pull up the list. So the last thing we'll see is Starlink but we've got... it's because it's a rideshare mission, there's a whole bunch of different companies that are represented here today. So there's Spaceflight Incorporated, USF, Astrocast, Celestis, Space Domain Awareness, Hawkeye, IQPS, DoD, Tyvac, Umbra Lab, Near Space Launch, Exo Launch, Swarm Technologies, Aurora Insight, Nano Avia. I could go on forever. There's a ton of them. There's so many. So there's a bunch of different customers, and one of the things that is a little bit unique for SpaceX, I think, is they're going to take a little bit of extra time with this today because there are so many customers involved. Like there's a lot of people that have stakes in the game here today. So hopefully, uneventful launch, be normal. The biggest thing today is really going to be is the weather going to cooperate? I think is really what we're going to have to pay attention to today, because the weather was not looking too great. We were 40% chance of violating launch constraints here, and it's really this cloud layer that's the problem right here. So we've got this thick layer of clouds that's descending right over the Cape right now. And these clouds, it's always tough to tell on this two-dimensional map here, but they're a little bit thick from what I've heard. So this cloud layer is going to be our concern here today. Can they find an opening where maybe the clouds aren't so thick? We don't know. We'll have to see. Have to see what they come up with. And let's see. Let's go back to winds. We're looking okay, but that's not what I want to show. Oh, there it is. Here we go. The mission execution forecast. Just to show you the 40% chance of violating launch constraints, and it's primarily the thick cloud layer rule, cumulus cloud rule right there. Clouds, main concern today. It's going to be clouds. But upper level wind shear, low risk criteria, booster recovery weather, low risk, solar activity, low risk. So we're looking okay in those departments. So it's really the clouds that we have to watch out for today. We'll see if they want to cooperate with us. Let's bounce over. We kind of showed the path of the flight here today, but this Google map here from Raul on Twitter, he puts this together, which is pretty awesome. You've got all the different the different hazard zones. This is the hazards map here. So obviously we've got hazards where the booster is flying and where potential terminations could happen with debris coming back down, which is essentially what some of this is here. And then you've got some additional hazard zones that we wouldn't normally see. I mean, these are some weird shapes here, and it's really because of that turn that we've got in the middle of flight today. There we go. So I'm getting stage 2 RP1 loading complete. I didn't turn the mission control audio up for you guys, but I just did, so you should be able to hear that now if they come back on. But I just heard it in my ear. So we got the drone ship, which is the blue pin, and then fairing recovery is the green pin. But also look very close to Cuba here, right off the coast. I mean, obviously it's not that close, where somebody on the beach is going to see this, see it coming down and be able to swim out to it or something. It's not quite that close, but somebody on the beach, maybe see. I don't know. Is it going to be close enough? I don't know what the distance is here, but. It's very close in proximity. It's still probably too far off to see it coming back down, but maybe you might see some of the entry burn if you're in Cuba, entry burn or landing burn. You might even see that in Miami, entry burn and landing burn here. At least a portion of the landing burn. So there's and then I think we have a second stage deorbit area somewhere. There it is. There's our second stage deorbit area where it's going to come back.
It's going to deorbit.
Right, the deorbit area. Second stage going to burn up back in the atmosphere after deployment. So we've got deployments happening all the way up to about an hour and a half after launch today. So lots and lots of deployments. They start about an hour after launch. So we're going to have launch today. We'll have our deployments starting an hour after launch today. So, all right, let's check in with everybody. We'll see what's happening here today, and then SpaceX will probably be going live here in just a couple of minutes. Linda over on Facebook, watching from the UK, question: is deploying all these satellites a future risk to human spaceflight and also the International Space Station? No, I wouldn't say so. It sounds like a lot of satellites, but remember, space is huge. There's so much space up there that they're nowhere. By the time they're deployed and spaced out, like, it's pretty easy to navigate around this kind of stuff. The real risk to satellites in orbit and the space station and things like that is orbital debris. Not necessarily active satellites, because we can plan on where those are going to be and things like that. So, but orbital debris is a big risk. Satellites running into each other, collisions, that kind of stuff, that's a big risk. That's stuff that we really don't want to see. Anybody putting satellites up there has to have a plan to get the satellites back down when they're done with them. That kind of stuff is super important. But putting up active satellites at this rate right now, I mean, we only have, what, like 5,000 or so satellites in orbit right now, total. Which, at any given time, we've got more planes than that in the air. And it's not like we're looking up in the sky going like, oh my goodness, there's no room for the planes. We got room. There's plenty of space up there. So, maybe someday, but we're still a long ways away from that point. All right, I see SpaceX is firing up their stream here. We'll see if we can grab a couple of other comments here before we jump in. But Tori, will there be a space mouse? Says Foxy Paws. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll see if the space mouse shows up. We'll talk about the space mouse after if it does. Polar from Florida is nice, but hey, let's hope no cows get injured. Right, that's the reason we stopped polar orbiting launches from Florida, is because back in the 60s, the U.S. Accidentally killed a cow in Cuba with a Thor Able-Star rocket that they had to terminate because it went off course, and some of the debris from the rocket came down and killed a cow in Cuba, and this was in the 60s. Us and Cuba weren't on good terms at the time. So that was a big political scandal and international event. So we stopped polar orbiting launches from Florida after that. But now we're bringing them back. And the main reason is really SpaceX now has an automated flight termination system, which can perform much better calculations on when and how to terminate the rocket if it's going off course. It can react sooner. It can hold off on reacting if it needs to clear Cuba, for example, if it's going off course, but they're like, well, it's going off course, but let's not terminate it yet. Could potentially do that. We don't know if there's actually software to do that, but there's a lot of things an automated flight termination system can do. You don't have to worry about ground communications going out, whether or not you can reach the rocket and tell it to terminate. So automated flight termination system has been a big improvement since then. Think it's going to be a no-go, says Steve Jenkins. Oh, don't tell me that, Steve. They're going live. It looks like we might be in good shape. We'll see. Why don't we throw this before I forget? Let's see, we gotta mute that, and we'll turn that up like this, and we'll make it full screen, and we'll put it over here, and we'll mute that. Okay, just want to get that ready so we're ready once they do go live here. Let's see what else we missed here for a couple of comments. Waiting for the fog to burn off in West Palm Beach, says John. Tori, do you think there will be a launch today since it's so cloudy? I'm not sure. The clouds do have me concerned, but they did start fueling. So once they start fueling, usually if there's no chance of launch, they're not even going to fuel the rocket. But it sounds like there's a chance, so we might be okay. And this is also kind of, I saw a couple of people comment about Starlink being on here, so it is kind of exciting that we're going to get Starlink into polar orbit for the first time, because if you remember, let's pull up our Starlink map here, but if you remember, Starlink has not had any polar coverage so far. So here's our Starlink web that we have right now, which is all these blue paths. These are all the Starlink satellites that are currently in orbit, but you notice we've got big gaps here on the poles. Nothing for our friends in Antarctica, nothing for Santa. So we've got no coverage of the poles. Now this is going to be the first time that we get coverage to the poles, but this is also, there's only 10 of them on here. So it's not like we're going to have complete coverage for the entire polar region after today's launch. It's only 10 Starlink satellites, but it's a start, which is kind of exciting. So you may, if you can do this, probably your bigger concerns would be like northern European areas, maybe Russia gets in on it, although they've, from what I've heard, they've told their citizens that anybody subscribing to Starlink is going to get fined by the government, so I don't think they're real super thrilled about Starlink. Maybe northern Canada. Let's try northern Canada, maybe Alaska. They could get in on it if we get some polar coverage as well. So, let's go back. Where's our SpaceX mission? Oh, they went live. All right, well, actually, why don't we switch over to them and we'll listen in and we'll see what they have to say today. Whoa.
Welcome to the webcast for SpaceX's Transporter-1 mission. It's our first dedicated smallsat rideshare program launch and third launch of 2021. On board this mission are 133 commercial and government spacecraft, in addition to 10 Starlink satellites, the most spacecraft ever deployed on a single mission. This count includes CubeSats, microsats, and 2 orbital transfer vehicles, sometimes called space tugs, which would deploy their spacecraft after separating from Falcon 9. SpaceX created the smallsat rideshare program to provide smallsat operators with competitive pricing, increased flight opportunities, flexibility, and most importantly, a ride to space on SpaceX's Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, as well as Starship in the not-too-distant future. For more details on our rideshare program or to reserve your spot, head over to our website at spacex.com/rideshare. Now let's take a look at Falcon 9 out on the pad at the Cape. You're looking at a live view of Falcon 9, our 70-meter, 2-stage liquid-fueled launch vehicle. Today's mission is the 5th flight for this particular booster. Its first 4 flights were all in 2020 and included our Crew Dragon Demo 2 mission for NASA in May, the Anasis 2 mission in July, a Starlink mission in October, and most recently CRS-21 in December. You can tell by the re-entry soot at the bottom of the vehicle that this booster has flown before. That bottom 2/3 of the vehicle is the first stage. Its objective is to accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere into space and then separate from the rest of the rocket. From there, it will make its way back to Earth and target a landing on our recovery vessel, Of Course I Still Love You, which is our drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. There it is on screen. On top of the first stage is the black carbon fiber inner stage. This is a composite material and it houses the larger nozzle of the second stage engine. Then on top of that is the payload. Then on top of the inner stage is the Falcon 9 second stage, which takes the payload to its eventual destination in orbit. After the first stage separates about 2.5 minutes into flight, the second stage will then carry the 143 spacecraft to orbit. And in order to get the intended orbit today, we'll need to light our second stage twice before deploying all of our payloads. At the very top of the rocket, you'll notice a large nose cone. This is called the fairing. It's a composite structure and protects the rocket from the forces of ascent and houses the payloads. Once the vehicle is outside of the Earth's atmosphere, the fairing separates to expose the satellites to space. For today's mission, our fairing is brand new. Our recovery vessel, Miss Chief, there it is on screen, will be attempting to recover the fairing halves from the water following landing.
Yeah, that's kind of what we thought. Water recovery, not an actual
finally, the large
catch.
truss structure next to Falcon 9 is called the Transporter Erector. We also refer to it as the TE. Its job is to roll Falcon 9 out to the launch pad, raise it to a vertical launch position, and also route power, fluids, and communication to both the rocket and the satellite. It will retract away from the rocket slightly at around the T-minus 4.5 minute mark, providing clearance for Falcon 9 to lift off. The chief engineer held a technical poll at T-minus 1 hour mark, and the launch director held a propellant load and launch go-no-go poll at the T-minus 38 minute mark. If we do have a call to hold today's launch, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. We are currently red on weather for surface electrical fields. We'll keep a close eye on that as we count down, but weather is looking a little dicey for our current liftoff time.
No.
Falcon 9 has been loading propellants since the T-minus 35 minute mark. The vehicle uses a refined form of kerosene called RP1 for its fuel and super chilled liquid oxygen, or LOX, as its oxidizer. Currently, RP1 is fully loaded on the second stage and nearly fully loaded on the first stage. Liquid oxygen loading is currently underway as well. Helium load also began before the webcast went live and will continue to top off until a minute and a half before launch. We use this helium to pressurize the tanks as the propellant is pulled out by the engine pumps. In about a minute, at the T-minus 7 minute mark, engine chilling will begin. This is where we allow a small amount of super chilled liquid oxygen to flow into the Merlin engine turbo pumps prior to the full flow of LOX to avoid any thermal shocks to the system. And then a few minutes from now, checkouts of the second stage thrust vector control actuators will be underway. This is also known as the engine wiggle test. We move the thrust chamber slightly to make sure that the guidance hardware is a go for flight. This happens on the first stage engines as well, and those happens just seconds before ignition. The vehicle is healthy, and we are currently working no issues. The range is standing by to support. Again, the weather is red, but we'll continue to monitor that all the way until T0 to see if we get a chance for liftoff today. All systems continue to go for a liftoff at 9:40 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, all systems go, just not the weather. So weather is red. So this is going back to that cumulus cloud rule that we were talking about. They've also got an electrified field violation right now, which sounds like the primary concern, but it's kind of the same thing with cumulus clouds. You can get rocket-induced lightning by flying through thick clouds, especially if your environment has higher electrical fields like this. So there's no lightning happening in the area right now, but if you launch this rocket and try to fly through those thick clouds with this electrified field nearby, it will induce and cause lightning to happen. The lightning will travel down the exhaust of the rocket, and you basically get a lightning strike on the rocket itself. This is exactly what happened on Apollo 12. If you want to know about that, I did a 2-Minute Tuesday video about Apollo 12 on the channel. We talk all about that, but yeah, that's the big concern. We kind of learned our lesson afterwards.
Hey, just getting word from the team. So it's official. We are scrubbing today for weather, for surface electrical fields. We do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 10 a.m. So we'll see you then and attempt another launch for Transporter-1.
Well, that was quick. Well, I guess that's the end here today. Oh man. So yeah, they scrubbed pretty early. That's not unusual. So particularly with that electrified field, you have to be able to have a 30-minute window where the electrified field is in good shape. So if you violate the electric field conditions at T-minus 31 minutes, you would have to have basically no further electrified field violations throughout the rest of the countdown. And if that happens at, say, T-minus 8 minutes, and it violates those constraints again, there's not enough time to clear that window. So and that's why we put on the countdown here, you can't see it anymore, but it's right at the 30-minute countdown, there's something called the weather gate, which is where a lot of those weather factors come into play that basically say, like, all right, we're under 30 minutes, we can't have any more violations of a set number of conditions coming up to launch, because we need, if you could violate the lightning rule, for example, or the thick cloud rule, or even the electrified field rule, you could violate that to before T-minus 30 minutes, and you'd still be okay as long as you don't violate it again as you get closer to launch. So that's the problem. It sounds like, and the reason they probably scrubbed so early, meaning, we scrubbed it, what was it, like 6 minutes or so that they announced the scrub. Yeah, 6 minutes and 14 seconds is when they ended the broadcast. So probably violated the conditions again, and there's not enough time to have a buffer there to clear it. So that's a problem. So it looks like now we're going to go for tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the next launch attempt, and we'll come back again tomorrow and hopefully see these satellites launch. It's kind of an exciting launch. I'm excited to see. Well, I love to see, we get great video from all sorts of amateur and professional videographers and photographers and things like that when it does this polar launch from Florida, because it can go right down the coast, and you can sit in like Cocoa Beach or something like that and film the whole thing or take photos of it, especially like photos and videos. Like, you get the side profile of the rocket, which we don't normally see. Normally the rocket kind of goes away from you and all you see is the tail end like this. But if it's going like that, you get that side profile, which will be much nicer. Obviously not of a Starship, but can get that side profile, which is kind of cool. Also, you can see a much better view of separation. I don't have my Falcon 9 is too far over there to reach, and I'm wired in. But you can see that separation event much better, which is kind of cool to see too. So that's one of the things I'm excited for. So I guess we're gonna wait and see tomorrow what's happened. Why was it scrubbed? So scrubbed for weather, basically. So it sounds like the electrified field, I forget, I keep saying electrified field, but there's another term for that I'm blanking on right now. But yeah, basically the environment around the launch pad has an elevated level of electric potential, and you don't want to launch a rocket through that because it will cause lightning to happen. Start a petition to destroy clouds over Florida. Just no clouds in Florida ever. Yeah, good luck with that. That would be nice. Didn't they have a longer launch window? It is there is a launch window, but I don't think it's very long. So our launch window today, let's see, do I have our launch window? There is a 42-minute window. So they have a small window, but the problem is with the Falcon 9, once you start fueling the rocket, it almost turns into an instantaneous launch window because there's not enough time. With that short of a launch window, you can move it and adjust it before you start fueling. But once you start fueling, if you have to hold, there's not enough time to recycle the countdown and be able to launch again. Remember, the Falcon 9 doesn't have like big, thick insulation on the outside like SLS has, like the Space Shuttle has. Like you can't just drop in a whole bunch of liquid oxygen in the tank and then just let it sit there. So that liquid oxygen, which is super, super cold, starts to boil off very, very quickly. And their loading procedure is set up so that it loads the liquid oxygen and launches at the perfect time. And if they have to hold, they have to drain the liquid oxygen and start over again so that they know they have the right amount of liquid oxygen in the rocket. So now you could throw a whole bunch of insulation on the outside of the rocket, but that adds a whole bunch of weight. And then you wouldn't get the performance that the Falcon 9 has. So let me grab a couple other comments before we end it here today, and then we'll wrap up. I will tell everybody, consider jumping on our Discord. We'll probably chat some more. You can join Discord for free. We got a Discord of almost 2,000 of our close community members, and you can be one of them if you jump in and join us on Discord. I'll drop a link in the chat here. Look for our friendly Nightbot. We'll provide a link to Discord. If you want to take the extra step and help support the channel, which is how we do broadcasts like this, consider becoming a Patreon member or YouTube channel member. And you can get access to some of the secret Discord channels, which is where we've got some more behind-the-scenes stuff and early access to any of the scripted videos that I put out. So just something to consider if you want to get the latest on, maybe tomorrow's launch attempt. We'll probably talk some more about that in Discord as well. So I'll drop those links in the chat. And now I'll grab some comments before we end up. Don't launch if they're clouds. Saturn V got lightning during Apollo. Yep, that was Apollo 12. Did a video on that on my channel here. You can look on the YouTube channel. There's a video about Apollo 12 from a couple of weeks ago where we talked about what happened with Apollo 12 and why it got struck by lightning. It's pretty much this exact scenario here. Cloudy day. It was actually kind of raining a little bit for Apollo 12, but still cloudy day like this where no lightning was actually happening. But if you launch, you can cause lightning to happen, which is what basically they're afraid of with the Falcon 9, which is why they're not launching it today. Does it go over Palm Beach, Florida? So the path today isn't directly going to go over land, with the exception of our friends in Cuba, but it does skirt down the East Coast quite a bit. And it's, the track, it kind of looks like it goes over this bit, but it does not. It stays out over water. So it's going to come down here, does this whole dogleg maneuver to go from east, southeast, south, southwest. And that's the final trajectory that it's on, is that southwest trajectory. So yeah, it'll stay off of Florida land, won't go directly over, but it will go directly over Cuba down here. Head that direction, and also Central America. Not sure, I don't know my geography, I don't know what country this is, but it's gonna head this way as well. Somebody will have to tell me what country that is. I need labels on this map. I don't know my Central America geography. Let's see. Got some Overlook Horizon on your shirt there. Yeah, it's just a sticker. It's covering the shirt manufacturer logo. I figured we might as well cover that up and put our logo there. They're not paying me to show their logo. What? Yeah, so a couple people talked about SOWCOM 1B was an RTLS landing. Why this one's not an RTLS landing? It's from Space Oyster. Why wasn't this a return to base landing or a return to launch site? RTLS. So this basically they've got so many satellites on there and it's so much weight that they need that extra fuel. It takes a lot of fuel to go back to the Cape to do an RTLS landing. You can only do those in really narrow circumstances. You have to have a bunch of extra fuel capacity so that you can turn the rocket around, null out all your velocity going downrange, and come back to the launch site and land. In this case, they've got a ton of satellites. They added 10 Starlink satellites to it as well. There's just not enough fuel to do an RTLS landing, so they just landed out on the drone ship, which they're getting pretty good at it these days. So it's pretty reliable, so there's not really an added benefit. I mean, there is a little bit of a benefit to do an RTLS landing, faster processing time, but it's not really super important. They just land it on the drone ship and they're good to go. And they get more payload into orbit. Let's see, what else did we miss before we end up? Yeah, we scrubbed today for weather. Has it launched? Nope. No launch today. We are scrubbed. We're scrubbed for weather. How come they don't tell the truth about us living in a snow globe? I'm pretty sure you're joking with that comment, or at least I hope you are. Although I feel like I'm in a snow globe right now because it's snowing quite a bit where I am here in upstate New York. But do satellites expire in space? I mean, satellites have a lifespan. Most of them will go for, 5, 10, 15 years. And then they're supposed to deorbit after that. It's going to deorbitate. But they do have a lifespan. Usually when they can either run out of onboard fuel, they can't do any sort of onboard maneuvers anymore. Satellites can die and lose communication. They could lose thrusters for orientation. So they can die. I don't know. They don't really have they don't expire so much. I mean, you could potentially have a satellite, I guess, that could suffer from damages from radiation and things like that to the electronics. But most of the satellites that are launched are meant to deal with that. I mean, look at something like Voyager 1, which was launched in the 70s, that still is operating today, at least a little bit. So they can last for a long time, but they do, both satellites have a expected lifespan where they'll be done using them and meant to be replaced. Hate the weather because it makes the launch canceled. Yeah, you and me both. Hate when we get scrubbed for weather. Have they set a time for tomorrow? Yes, I think it's like 10 a.m. tomorrow. I think it moves later by 20 minutes. So I think today was 9:40 a.m. This is Eastern time, which is like 14:40 UTC. I think it's going to go to 10 a.m., which would be 1500 UTC. So I think it moves by 20 minutes tomorrow. So it's almost the same time, it's just 20 minutes later than we did today. 10 a.m. Eastern, 1500 UTC. Launch trajectory is interesting, says Brandon on Facebook. Yeah, that's one of the most exciting parts, is this launch trajectory. That's why I'm really excited for this. I'm still a little bit confused why they didn't try to use this one or go for this at Vandenberg, because this would have been a great one for Vandenberg. There's nothing in the way. Instead, they're going from the East Coast, but I also like that they're going from the East Coast. I love seeing these polar orbits from the East Coast. Like, that's kind of exciting. you know why this launches from the Cape instead of Vandenberg? No, I don't. That's what we were just saying. I don't know why they're doing it from the Cape instead of there. I know that the Cape is much easier for SpaceX to launch from. They have a lot more facilities there. They have, they are much better equipped to launch rockets from the Cape than they are from Vandenberg. I mean, they can launch from Vandenberg, but this booster in particular, this booster launched Bob and Doug on the Demo 2 mission. So this booster was already on the East Coast, and if you wanted to launch from Vandenberg, you'd have to truck that booster all the way to the West Coast, which is a whole operation. And if they can just keep it there, it makes their operations a lot smoother. They can reuse boosters easier. Flies a mission, comes back, goes to processing. They just drop another payload, second stage, and a payload on it. Fly it again. If they have to constantly truck boosters back and forth from East Coast to West Coast, I mean, that's a whole operation, and it takes time and delays and things like that. So I think they're trying to avoid the cross-country trips with the boosters if they can. Will they ever launch other places in the U.S. other than KFC and Vandenberg? Maybe Boca Chica. Boca Chica is going to launch Starship, although we're probably going to see that as a... What happened to my clip back here? We're probably going to see Starship as an ocean launch platform eventually, whenever that happens. But probably going to be ocean launch somewhere near Boca Chica. But that's probably the only other launch site that SpaceX is planning for. We do have the Wallops Island launch facilities in Virginia, which is where Rocket Lab is going to start a new launch pad there. They've already started it, but they haven't actually launched from there yet. But Rocket Lab will launch from Wallops Island in Virginia. That's where like the Antares and the Cygnus capsule launches from there. So that's kind of our main launch sites: Cape Canaveral, Vandenberg, Boca Chica now, Wallops Island in Virginia. What about Blue Origin? Well, we don't have an orbital vehicle for Blue Origin yet. They're working on New Glenn, but right now their New Shepard is suborbital, launches from Texas. But that's suborbital and might fly crew tourists as early as April. We're probably going to get another test flight in, let's see, when would that be? That would be like early March maybe. It'll be the next Blue Origin New Shepard suborbital test flight. And that's expected to be the last test flight before they start flying crew in potentially like mid to late April. That'd be kind of exciting. And then, yeah, a couple people talking about Phobos and Deimos. I don't know how you actually pronounce those. I should probably look that up. But that's the names of Mars moons, but also the names of the oil rigs that SpaceX has purchased to convert into launch platforms for Starship. It was big news in the last week here. Which mission did you like better, Demo 2 or Crew 1? I'd have to go with Demo 2 just because that was the first one. I loved that one. I mean, I loved them both, but like Demo 2 was very exciting. The very first one to see humans fly on. That was super exciting for me. What's your status update? Data on Mars? I'm not sure what that means. I don't have a status update on Mars. We're waiting on Elon. Do you think... Wow, we're really getting into the weeds here now. Do you think we switch dimensions at New Year's? Jake, you're getting into the weeds, my man. I don't know. Would you fly on Blue Origin? Sure. I mean, I'm not going to pay for it. It's too expensive for me, but sure, I would fly it. That would be fun. I think that would be awesome. Oh, there you go. Anita, one of our moderators, said Astra Space launching from Alaska, from Kodiak, Alaska. Forgot about that one. Thanks, Anita. Monday still looking good for SN9. Yeah, we might get SN9 on Monday. That would be that's still expected. I'm still kind of on the fence. I have an event on our channel ready to publish. I'm kind of holding off until I get a little more word on whether or not that's actually going to happen, but still expecting, yeah, Monday through Wednesday this week sometime for an SN9 launch. Will you stream Perseverance? Yes, if I can, as long as I don't have a conflict. SN9 Tuesday. Yeah, I think we have flight TFRs for Monday through Wednesday, so Monday does seem a little early to me. I would be surprised if it goes on Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, I feel a little more comfortable with. We'll see. Jasmine. Is it Jasmine1234? My company is launching one of the commercial satellites in Transporter-1. What a time to be alive. That's pretty awesome. That's got to be exciting for you and your company. Probably nerve-wracking as well. All your work sitting on top of a giant controlled explosion. Talk about the Virgin Orbit flights. We did a video on that this week where we talked about that a little bit. I don't know what else to say on that. It happened. It was cool. I loved it. I hope they do more. When will Perseverance launch? Well, we're talking Perseverance, the Mars 2020 rover landing is when is that? February 18th? 17th? 18th, I think. 18th. February 18th. I hope there's no explosion. Well, you want some explosion, you just want it to be controlled. It's a controlled explosion. That's the problem. It's the uncontrolled explosion that's the problem. But you want a controlled explosion. That's how you get to orbit. You need that controlled explosion. Okay. Nomadic says that in our Discord, they're talking about Space Lobster, which is pretty much par for the course, but they're also talking about the Cuban cow. Did we start? Oh, geez. I just opened Discord and all I see is cows. That's all. You just see a bunch of pictures of cows in Discord. All right. Well, I guess we started something today. I have a video about that where we talk about the cow. If you don't know about the Cuban cow, look up the Salcom 1B video on my channel. We tell the whole story about the Cuban cow and what happened there. So I guess we started something there. All right. Well, I think when does SLS launch? It's scheduled for November, but with the latest green run issue, I'm expecting at least a couple weeks of delay there. Kind of par for the course for SLS, but yeah, I'm expecting some sort of delay. But right now it's scheduled for November. We'll see. The Cuban cow. A lot of people confused on the Cuban cow. Yeah, so I'll tell the story one more time. There's a video on my YouTube channel about the Cuban cow from the Salcom 1B mission where we talked about like why we're launching from Polar. But it's basically we stopped launching polar orbiting satellites from Florida because in the 60s we accidentally killed a cow in Cuba with one of our rockets that had debris land on a cow in Cuba, and we killed it. So big international crisis. We weren't on great terms with Cuba in the 60s, so we stopped launching over Cuba in the 60s to kind of settle that down, and we moved all our polar orbits to Vandenberg. We just recently opened that back up just this last year for Salcom 1B. It's the first time we launched polar from Florida since the 1960s. So now we have automated flight termination systems that allow us to do that a little more safely. And yeah, that's the story of the Cuban cow. So go look up the video on our YouTube channel and watch the video about the Cuban cow. There you go. All right, well, there you go. Framrick just dropped the video in the chat there. Yeah, and I see Tina said she's a mod on other channels. When you reference videos, the mods should drop the link in the chat. I'm sure they're trying. They usually do their best, but they also have no idea what I'm gonna say. So sometimes they blurt things out and they're like, ah! They're trying to scramble. Where's the video? Let me find it. So they're awesome. I appreciate all the work that the moderators are doing. I'm sure there's times during our streams when I say something and they're like, what? Where? What? What do I do now? Freaking out on their end, but we appreciate what all their help. All right. Well, Tori streams are like Vegas. Anything can happen. I like that. All right. Well, I think at this point, I think it's time to end. To end on that note. That is improper staging. There you go. I got nothing else. I was gonna try to say something else, but I got nothing. I think we'll just end it, and we'll be back tomorrow for another attempt. Thanks for hanging out for a bit, at least. I know there wasn't much to see here. No rocket, but just build the excitement for tomorrow's attempt. Sunday morning, launching at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1500 UTC. I'll be live 30 minutes prior to that. So set your reminders. I'll put an event up on the YouTube channel as soon as I'm done here, so you can set a reminder so you don't miss it and you don't forget about it. Consider subscribing, maybe hit the little thumbs up on the video. You know how all that works. It helps the channel, helps people find us, helps people join our community, makes it more fun for all of us here. Consider joining the Discord, that's free, or supporting the channel by being a Patreon or YouTube channel member. Okay, advertisement over. All right, that's it, everybody. I'm gonna end it here. It's always fun either way, but we'll do more tomorrow. We'll be back again for another attempt. And my name's Tori. This is Overlook Horizon, and I will see you guys, hopefully, tomorrow morning. Thanks for hanging with us, guys. Have a good day. See ya.